Welcome to COASTER-net Uncut.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of COASTER-net Uncut. I am, of course, Andrew Barczyk here again with Danny Miller. And as always, welcome to another exciting show. And I think we've got a very special topic for us this evening. But before we get into that, for all our new listeners out there, we keep seeing you guys on YouTube pop up. We keep getting new listeners every week. So just a little introduction to COASTER-net Uncut, that every week we will take you on a coaster journey throughout the industry, giving you our uncut opinion on the rides and theme parks that we love. So tonight, we're going to talk about some theme parks, and we're going to talk about one chain in particular that a lot of people kind of get down on, and maybe unrightfully so. And that chain is Six Flags. Anyway. Well, yeah, some of them.
For some of them. It's kind of weird that I got my Canada's Wonderland mug here this evening, and you've got your Universal T-shirt on. But I do have a Six Flags St. Louis shirt on this evening, so we're kind of keeping with the theme anyway. But Six Flags, it's we like to make fun of Six Flags about a lot of things, especially on this show here. I think you and I are both probably more Cedar Fair guys, at least at this point. And I think that's a show that's coming before too long. I think we're going to have a Six Flags versus Cedar Fair debate. I think we'll probably do one of these best of the chain shows for Cedar Fair, too. It's probably going to have a little bit different. I think we're going to kind of exclude Cedar Point maybe from most of that discussion. And at least from some topics, from some of the categories. The way we're going to work it tonight, I think we kind of got a list of all the Six Flags parks in front of us, and we've got 6 or 7 categories. I got a little whiteboard up right here that I'm going to kind of write down. We're going to go through these categories, roller coasters and rides, food, operations, customer service, special events, and like the environment and theming and scenery. And we're going to kind of pick, I think, a few of what we think are the best in each of those categories. And then we're going to see if maybe we lead ourselves to an answer. I think we will probably have different parks for each of those categories. And you and I may have differing opinions within those categories. And then we're going to talk about what some of the viewers and some of the listeners have said. We've had some people interact on the Coaster Consortium as well as on the COASTER.net forums. So we'll get into that. So what do we want to start with? Do we want to start with the roller coasters, or do we want to start with one of the smaller categories?
Well, it's interesting because I don't know. Six Flags to me is kind of this enigma where I've just recently started going to these parks. So I've told the story before in other shows that I was a solid Cedar Point guy, no question. And Great America is about 45 minutes away from where I am. And a lot of people regard Great America to be one of the better Six Flags parks in the chain. And it just comes to a point where, I just didn't want to go because the stuff that Great America was offering me couldn't even compare to what Cedar Point was offering. And I just didn't go for a number of years. And I was kind of down on Great America, to be honest with you. And recently, I've become like this Six Flag defender all of a sudden. That anytime the bashers come out, all of a sudden I'm defending Six Flags. Almost without question, I'm defending them because after going to a lot of these parks, there's a lot there to be seen and to be experienced.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's funny you say that because I feel like, especially when we go back to something more recent with the new Texas Giant incident, and ever since that, and there's been a lot of things in the last year or two, a lot of examples of people getting upset at the park, whether it's disability related or if it's, clothing related. I know Great Adventure had an issue with a military member wearing a shirt that they deemed inappropriate. And, when I look at those situations we've seen in the last couple of years, it's almost like, the park is kind of in the right here. And that's something we haven't said a whole lot in recent years about Six Flags, but I can kind of see them turning a corner, and maybe we'll get into it in a different show, but I think in at least your book and my book, I think Six Flags maybe isn't quite on the level of hate, I guess you would say, that it once was. I think I'm more of a fan of Six Flags now than I was, say, 3 years ago, when I really started going to the parks and, to bring back another term, really started my coaster enthusiasm 3 or 4 years ago. I'm more of a fan now than I think I was then. So that's an interesting thing to discuss.
Well, along that same vein, is you talk about and maybe this is where this discussion starts, because I do think that there is a heavy bias out there that's anti-Six Flags, and the one story that I point to this summer is people jumped all over Six Flags. It wasn't this summer, it was during Fright Fest at Six Flags America, where you had the young man getting beat up and be put into a coma. It happened in the parking lot, and people just jumped all over Six Flags, and there was story upon story on my news feed about it, and it's just like people are like, oh, typical Six Flags, no security, no this, no that. And then a few weeks later at Canada's Wonderland, a kid gets shot and killed. Killed in the parking lot, not even put into a coma, but flat out dead, and there's no talk about it at all. And it just shows you that how there is definitely a Six Flags bias out there. And I think it's unfair. I think it's completely unfair. And when you look at the Six Flags parks, a lot of the stuff that people complain about is stuff that you experience at every park. I don't care if you're at a Hirsch and Family Park, if you're at a Cedar Fair park. Some of the things are things you're going to experience everywhere. But yet Six Flags gets this rap, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the clientele at a Six Flags park that, I think it needs to be stated that their ticket prices are very cheap, that your season pass prices are.
Yeah, the season pass price is really cheap too. I mean, up until just like last year, the season pass price was vary greatly from park to park. There were a few seasons where I went down to Six Flags America in late March and got a season pass for $50 because at Great Adventure, which is the one that's closest to me, it's like $85, $90. Now they've kind of brought it down from the bigger parks a little bit and brought it up from those other parks. So they're all somewhere between like $80 and $90. But when you compare that to the Cedar Fair Platinum Pass, it's half the price. And to be fair, you get more parks. I mean, they have a few more parks overall than the Cedar Fair parks do. When you get into the water parks, that's another discussion, because they handle that differently because those are separate gates. But so that's a different discussion. So I do think that you're right. I think it goes back to something I said on last week's show. People like to be outraged. And Six Flags has always been the chain that most people have taken their anger out on. And even though you see stuff at the Six Flags parks that you see at Cedar Fair parks, and you see at Busch Gardens parks, and you see at a Hershey park, or you might have even see it at some of the smaller parks, it's kind of like you're just waiting for them to do something that you don't like, so you can say, there it is. Yeah. More flags, more fail, right there. See, I told you. And you turn around and you could probably see it at a Cedar Point or a Kings Island or a Dorney Park or a Carowinds. And, if you like Cedar Fair more, then you're like, oh, well, that happens at all the parks. Well, yeah, that's kind of the point.
And like you said, I think people just they just are unwilling to give Six Flags the benefit of the doubt most of the time, or just to turn the other way and ignore it. Yeah, they just don't do it. But on that note, I think let's go right to the top. I say let's talk about the coasters, because that's going to be I think that's going to be the place where these parks really differentiate themselves. So we're looking for what we feel is the best Six Flags park, and I have a
list of parks right in front of you there. Do you have the list of all the Six Flags parks in front of you?
I have them right up here, my friend, right up here. That's where I got all mine.
Okay. All right. have them in alphabetical order.
Oh, well, that I don't have.
How do you do that?
Yeah. But when I think of rides, I think of a few places jump to my mind real quick. I think Magic Mountain has to jump to the forefront.
That's got to be one.
And to be honest, I think it's quantity over quality when it comes to Magic Mountain. That you do have a few upper class rides. I would put X2 in that category.
3 or 4. You got 3 or 4. You've got X2. You've got Tatsu. I would put Apocalypse in there, and then after that, I'd say, okay, I'll give you maybe Goliath and Riddler, but they're not outstanding. They're great, but they're not outstanding. I think maybe Twisted Colossus replacing the original Colossus will bring it up some. But really, Tatsu and X2 are really the two you're looking at there. And if you're a wooden coaster person, you like Apocalypse too. I think those are kind of really the 3 big boys there that are unique to that park. Goliath really isn't unique to that park because, it was the first one, but you've got a near clone in Titan. And Riddler is not all that different from Green Lantern in terms of layout. Now, in terms of feel, I think it's much more comfortable and much more enjoyable. Riddler is by far my favorite stand-up that I've ridden. So I think X2, Tatsu, and Apocalypse are really the ones there. Magic Mountain is probably the one I would go to. In terms of just coasters, I think a couple of the others here that I see that you have to talk about are Great Adventure, and I know you went there for the first year, and we'll talk about things that I don't like about Great Adventure because that's the one I for you. But in terms of just the coasters, just the ride selection, I think Great Adventure is probably number 2 or 3. And the other one that I think is in that discussion that I might give I would almost put them tied with Great Adventure is Six Flags Over Georgia.
Yes.
And Six Flags Over Georgia, you've got Goliath to compare with Nitro. I think Goliath's the better coaster there. You've got an outstanding old-school steel coaster in Mindbender. You've got your Batman. You've got the better Superman, I think, the Terrain Superman. And you don't have... Now, you would probably say that they don't have a world-class wood coaster to compare to El Toro. I would tend to agree with that. Although I think Georgia Cyclone, I know you don't like Georgia Cyclone. I absolutely fell in love with Georgia Cyclone. Great American Scream Machine is good as well, but I thought Georgia Cyclone was absolutely incredible in the back seat. Our friend Ryan Trout gave me that suggestion. So... I don't know. What are your thoughts on comparing? I think those are kind of the 3 that we can agree on that in the coaster realm are probably there. I mean, Fiesta Texas is really missing a wood coaster now. Great America, I would probably put next, maybe a half a step below that. I think they really kind of need one more steel coaster to really feel like that lineup is completely rounded up. I think New England is a little bit, aside from Bizarro and Batman, until they get Wicked Cyclone, and they don't really have a signature wood coaster. And we talked before we went on the air, St. Louis has a lot of clones. Over Texas has a lot of clones. So Mexico with Medusa Steel Coaster, we're hearing that thing's phenomenal, and so is the Superman there, but they're kind of lacking the numbers maybe a little bit. And
maybe we should state that up front, too, that there are 2 Six Flags parks that both of us have not been to, and that's Mexico and Montreal.
And I've been trying to get up to La Ronde for the last 2 years and have not done it. A friend of mine from school here, actually, Mike Troyes, who's helping us out with COASTER.net from time to time, he went to La Ronde, and he said after Goliath, it's really your standard collection. And he didn't get to ride Les Monstres, Les Monster. I don't know how the hell they would say it in French, but Les Monstres. The wooden coaster was closed, so he didn't even get to do that. You don't hear great things about that one either. So I'm thinking Great Adventure. I'm thinking Magic Mountain is probably number 1 just for sheer quantity and X2 and Tatsu's uniqueness compared to the other flyers. And then obviously you got nothing else like X2. They got 2 4D coasters there. And then Great Adventure and Over Georgia. I think those are kind of the 3 that we can agree are probably up there, with maybe Magic Mountain slightly ahead of the other 2.
I see. I go back and forth on Magic Mountain because with Magic Mountain, it's almost to me like that that you have two really, really good coasters up top. That X2 and Tatsu are really top of the line. In my definition, I call them world class. But then you go to a place like Great Adventure, and you do have some pretty solid stuff there. El Toro is really, leaps and bounds, and then you got Kingda Ka. But things kind of fall apart at Great Adventure pretty quickly, where you have your Superman, your even Green Lantern and Bizarro there are kind of all ho-hum, and then you have your Batman and your Dark Knight and everything.
They're good supporting coasters, but they're not. And I think that's the thing you run into at a lot of these Six Flags parks. Each one maybe has 2 or 3 standouts that are really unique to that park. You've got Kingda Ka, El Toro, and Nitro at Great Adventure. You've got Goliath, Mindbender, and then I would say, between Scream Machine and Georgia Cyclone, you kind of got 4 there. Cyclone's a clone, but, I think it's one of the better. I think it's the best one there. So you got kind of 3.5 there. And then, Magic Mountain, you got X2, you got Tatsu, and you got Apocalypse. And then after that, it's really kind of the same core of supporting rides, isn't it? I mean, you got a Batman.
It's really a mixture of the same rides. So like you get, it's like they have a pool of 10, and this park gets these 2, this park gets these 2, this park gets one from there, one from there. So it's kind of like just, they just have like this pool of rides that they just mix up all of a sudden. To be honest though, I might actually give the edge to Over Georgia. Over Georgia has, I just look at the supporting coasters. And the supporting coasters are both unique and pretty good. That I think we forget to mention Daredevil Dive at Over Georgia, which is...
Yeah, I had always heard bad things about that. And we, all 3 of us, my aunt, my sister, and myself, when we were there in August, we really enjoyed that coaster. And I think after 2 days there, we really all had the same opinion. We said, you know what? Ninja was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. It wasn't as bad as some of the rougher arrow loopers, but aside from maybe take Ninja out of the equation, there is really not a bad coaster at that park. And I think every Six Flags park has at least 1 or 2 that you can say are just bad coasters, whether it's a Mind Eraser or, an old arrow looper that's still around, or an old, or a Makoma looper in some cases, but, or a boomerang that's not well taken care of. But really, there is not a bad coaster at Six Flags.
I'll throw this out there too. Their kiddie coaster, I forget the name. It's one of their Looney Tunes coasters.
Yeah, the Wily Coyote Canyon Blaster. Yeah, that's a nice ride too.
That even had a little it packed a little punch onto it. I don't know why, but I remember having a blast. Yeah. All of their rides. I'm almost inclined to give my point, and maybe this is how we should do it. You give your point to one park, I give my point to one park, and we'll tally them up at the end.
So up here, I have Magic Mountain, Over Georgia, and Great Adventure. You sound like you're leaning towards Over Georgia.
I'm going to give my point to Over Georgia. That's who I'm going to give my point to.
I think if I had to pick one park to go to just for the coasters, I think I would probably go to Over Georgia. But having recently been there and not being to Magic Mountain the last couple of years, I think I want to ride Tatsu again. I want to ride X2 again. I want to ride Apocalypse again. It's kind of like, the one that I've been to more recently is my favorite. So I think I'm going to give my point to Magic Mountain for the quantity and the fact that I'm a flyer lover. Most of the people know that I love my Manta. I love Tatsu too. So it was my 250th. So I got the connection with Tatsu too. So you'll go Over Georgia. I'll go Magic Mountain on this.
Yeah.
And then we'll kind of agree that Great Adventure is probably a close third.
Yeah. Do you want to give... Give Great Adventure like a half a point, because maybe that'll be like a tiebreaker question.
Yeah, we'll do that. So we'll give Magic Mountain and Over Georgia a point each, and then we'll do Great Adventure.
To be honest, I don't know if I'm comfortable with giving Great Adventure a half a point, because I don't really think their coaster collection's all that great. to be honest with you.
I think it's a lot like Six Flags Over Georgia, where you go to look. Is there really a bad coaster at that park? I don't really think there's a bad. Skull Mountain is meh. But after that, I mean, they took out Rolling Thunder. That was really the worst one there. So it was almost like the removal of Rolling Thunder was almost an ad. Because it was so bad. And I mean, I know as an ACE member, it's all about conservation, and you never like to see a coaster close. But at the same time, if there's one that you were going to close down, that's probably the one. A low ridership. It wasn't comfortable. It wasn't all that exciting. It cried for track lubrication a lot. So.
I'll be honest, I'm not a Nitro fan. I don't get the Nitro people out there. Nitro did absolutely nothing for me. So
Nitro isn't one of the better B&M hybrids. It's still a good ride, but it's not a Goliath. It's not a Diamondback. It's not a Behemoth.
So if you take Nitro out of the mix, then really you're basing the whole argument around El Toro. And yeah, El Toro is world class, but I don't think you have that. I didn't get to ride King Ka, but I know Dragster, and everyone that I've talked to says Dragster's immensely better because of the restraints.
Dragster is better, but I mean, the fact that it's still the tallest, and I think it still has a little bit, to say you've ridden the world's tallest roller coaster, I think that gives it a little bit. So, take that for what it is. So let's.
Next
up, we have rides on the actual rides. This shouldn't be quite as long a discussion. I think the coasters was the big one that we wanted to duke it out with a little bit. But I think we're talking about like flat rides and dark rides, and I think personally, Six Flags St. Louis and Six Flags Over Texas are going to have a leg up starting next year with the Battle for Metropolis Dark Ride.
Yeah.
So I think Six Flags St. Louis has a nice collection. They've got Excalibur there. They've got a Sky Screamer. I mean, pretty much every park has a Sky Screamer now. The interesting thing is we talked about how good the coasters are at Six Flags Over Georgia. Six Flags Over Georgia, after you get past Monster Plantation, which is a fantastic, unique dark ride, which I really wish more corporate parks still had nowadays. After Monster Plantation, it's not even called that anymore. It's called Monster Mansion. I'm still thinking of the old name. But the Monster Mansion, Monster Plantation, whichever you know it as. After that, you've got Acrophobia, which I thought was kind of cool, and they have a Sky Screamer now there too now, right?
Yeah,
they do. Yeah. So they're getting better, and they're adding a few more this year. They're adding the Joker Tilt-A-Whirl, and one of the loopers, the Larson loopers. But Six Flags Over Georgia has really been lacking in the flat ride department, so I'm glad they're adding to it. Great Adventure used to have a real good collection, but they've relocated a lot of the Excalibur at St. Louis used to be there. They've taken out some of their more unique ones. The Space Shuttle looping Starship isn't there anymore. Boy, I mean, it's
rough, isn't it?
You don't really think Discovery Kingdom has a nice collection. Discovery Kingdom has a nice flat ride collection. Boy, oh boy, Great Escape has a decent one. Magic Mountain is all about the coasters. I mean, Magic Mountain and Over Georgia don't have a lot of flat rides. I mean, they're not getting my vote for this one. Boy, oh boy, I would think Six Flags Over Texas has the Rapids ride. Is that was closed? Is that's not closed for good? That was just closed for the dark ride thing, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're reopening that. They also have a log flume. They also have
they have the Yosemite Sam. Water is that that's not the flume. That's the water dark ride.
Yeah, the El Acerado or something like that is their is their flat ride. It's actually, I believe it is the first log flume ever built. I thought I read that somewhere at one point in my life.
Yes, I think you're right. You could be right on that. And they have I haven't got to ride this because it's closed, it's closed during the Christmas event, which is the only time I've been down to Texas, but they have the oil derrick observation tower. Mm-hmm. And then they have Superman Tower of Power, which is your S&S tower, and they also have the Texas Sky Screamer. So Six Flags Over Texas has a decent flat ride collection.
And they also have a swinging ship over by La Vibora. They have a traditional Trabant over by La Vibora. They have a
lot of unique ones that you don't see at a whole lot of parks anymore.
Yeah, I think you might be onto something with this Over Texas thing. Now, I didn't think of this coming in.
With the dark ride now,
yeah.
I think I'm going Over Texas on this one. I mean, I had 2 years ago on my first trip there. We had a miserable time there because it was cold. The lines were long. Half of the coasters weren't open to start, and they slowly opened throughout the day. And we were supposed to go for 2 days, and the weather was so cold the one day that they didn't even open. And the employees were, not friendly at all. My second trip there last year was much better. The weather was more tolerable. The employees were very friendly. More rides were open. And I really enjoyed my time there the second time around. I think probably because I wasn't so stressed out about getting on new rides and stuff. So, I had a fit the first time we were there because of how poorly everything was being done. But really, I think the coaster collection, you got New Texas Giant and Titan and Shockwave, but they don't really have the signature wood coaster, and they have a lot of clones. But the flat ride department, I really like Six Flags Over Texas. I think I'm going with them.
We've already thrown out St. Louis out there, and I think
they're in there too.
I think Fiesta Texas needs to be mentioned too, because Fiesta Texas has a nice little collection too. You have your S&S tower in Scream. They have a Frisbee ride. They have a Scooby-Doo dark ride. Their Bugs Bunny flume is actually really well done and pretty interesting.
Yeah, it is.
It's one of the more unique ones. They also
have one of those old 8-ball spinning rides.
They do. They have that. It's called High Roller, maybe.
Oh, what is that called?
Something high. I thought it was High Roller.
I think that's what it is. Let me look.
They also have
a ride similar to that. We rode a ride similar to that at Gilroy Gardens. It was called the Garlic Twirl, and instead of 8 balls or like pool balls, they were called they were garlic bulbs, which was really kind of cute and cool. But where is that? Keep going, I'll find it.
And of course Fiesta has they have a raft ride that's in a beautiful location next to Iron Rattler, that with the canyon and stuff is just amazing. There's Sky Screamer there, they have that as well.
The
Hustler. The Hustler.
That's what it's called. Yeah,
that's the Hustler. I knew it was something like High Roller. I was close.
No, I knew it was an H, but I knew it wasn't High Roller. So are you gonna say Fiesta Texas or St. Louis here?
Man.
I think I'm gonna go with Over Texas. I think the dark ride is gonna put it over the top for me with Over Texas.
Yeah, see, St. Louis has that same thing, because St. Louis has the Intamin Drop Tower, the Excalibur, which I really didn't like as a ride, but it's very unique. They have the flumes. Their flume is kind of boring.
St. Louis and Fiesta Texas, I think, would be a tie for second for me, and the dark ride would probably give it to St. Louis for me.
Yeah.
If I was picking between just those two.
Well, can we consider the new Batman ride a flat ride at Fiesta?
They're not calling it a flat ride, so.
Oh man, I think I'm gonna give mine to St. Louis.
Do you want to give a half a point to Fiesta Texas?
I would give a half a point to Fiesta. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll give a point. I'll give my point to Over Texas. You can give yours to St. Louis, and then we'll give half a point to Fiesta Texas. I really like Fiesta Texas. We're gonna get into that shortly too. So the next one we have on here is food, which is one we kind of talked about before we went on the air. the food is really tough because, as I said before we went on the air, most of the time the Six Flags food selection is very standard, and you'll probably find one place at each park where they have something a bit unique and really good. Like, example I used, and my aunt said in the comments that we'll get to, that we ate at a barbecue place, a barbecue sport, a New England, it was like a sports bar, but it was a barbecue type sports bar. They had Coke Freestyle there, right next to Goliath at Six Flags in New England. And that was really good. And I think that's kind of the go-to thing for us, where if you can find like barbecue chicken or pulled pork, if you can find that sort of thing, and, you know, if you're not a vegetarian or anything like that, if you can find that sort of thing and it's fresh and, you know, it's done there on site, I think it's always usually good enough to the point where, hey, this isn't bad for, you know, a regional theme park. You know, it's not Disney or Busch Gardens or Dollywood, you know, quality food, or Knoebels quality food. I just wanted to see your face there.
Can we go an episode without mentioning Knoebels? Just one.
No,
That's
I
all
just
I'm
wanted
asking.
to see your face when I said that. No, it's not your Disney or Busch Gardens or Dollywood level food, but it's okay. And I think, and forgive me for the fans of Six Flags Mexico, La Ronde, and those two parks that I haven't been to, you know, if I'm completely neglecting the fact that you guys have incredible food. But, you know, having been to all but two, I'm going to make probably a poor assumption that those two are probably the same, because I would think that those are probably the two most unique food cases, you know, being in Mexico and Canada in a French area of Canada. There's probably some unique stuff there. I don't know if it's anything that I would enjoy, but you know, I don't know if they're eating snails up there at La Ronde or anything. but I think for the most part, it's really your standard selection, and there's probably one or two good places at each park where you can get something good. I particularly remember good meals at Six Flags New England, Six Flags St. Louis, and Six Flags Over Georgia. I mean, it wasn't bad. Magic Mountain, I specifically remember being horrible. Great Adventure is always lackluster. It's always like chicken fingers and fries there. There's really nothing go-to there. Great America, I think we had good stuff at, but again, it's nothing to really write home about. Discovery Kingdom, we just got pizza at, so I'm really struggling with coming up with. There's really none that really stick out in my mind. I would maybe say New England just because of that barbecue place, if I had to pick one.
I'll be honest. I normally don't eat at Six Flags parks just because it is so food courtish at some point.
Yep, it is.
At Over Texas, I had a pulled pork sandwich. I was less than thrilled with it. Six Flags Great America, I have the season dining plan, and like they have a spaghetti restaurant in there that gives you a ton of food. That's pretty good, but it's nothing special. To be honest, the best meal I had at a Six Flags park was at Fiesta Texas. It's because it was Panda Express, and it was really fantastic.
Fiesta Texas has some good stuff too, but again, nothing that's like, you got to go to the Trapper's Smokehouse at Busch Gardens Williamsburg, or something that by name sticks out to you. Or like even like the blueberry ice cream at Kings Island, where it's like there's something that you have to have when you go there. There's not like a traditional food at any of those that's like, this is what they're kind of known for. So I would say I would maybe give a half a point to New England for me, just because we had a pretty good meal there last time. Like I said, St. Louis and Over Georgia, we had decent meals at, but nothing really above, well above average. I would say New England just because, and they had Coke Freestyle, which I'm a fan of. So I would say I'll give a half a point to them. It wasn't so good that I would give them a full point, but it was better than what I expected and better than what I would expect from a Six Flags.
I can only give my half a point to Six Flags Fiesta Texas, and that's because I did have a good meal there. Over Georgia, I went there over Easter weekend with my mom a few years back, and I'll tell you what, we struggled to find somewhere to eat. We struggled very hard. It was not an easy day to be in the park. I'll even say we went a whole day without even eating anything at that park just because there were no options that really stuck out.
There's nothing that really tickles your fancy.
Yeah, and all the lines for stuff were just terrible. Like, I don't know what it is. Well, we'll get into that later on with operations and stuff, but man.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. Good segue, because that's the next one on the list here.
I can tell you that operations, my point will not be going to over Georgia. That
I can tell you which ones aren't getting my vote.
Well, let me start with my story. That at over Georgia, I've told this story before. Like I said, we went over Easter weekend. I witnessed a verbal fight in the line for Great American Scream Machine that was completely inappropriate between various people, and the workers basically stood there and watched it and laughed at it. We went into a place to get a pretzel, and we're told by the workers that our machine, like, we gave them our credit card. The machine didn't work. They were just really rude about things. The pretzel was terrible too, by the way. So not only was the food not there, but the food that we did buy was actually really, really bad. Probably one of the worst pretzels I've ever had in my life. So the operations there, like, really, just on my own personal ranking without actually going through this quantification process, that I actually really liked over Georgia if it wasn't for the operations. The operations actually killed that part completely for me.
See, I didn't think you had told me that, and I didn't think that they were anything worse than I've seen at other parks. And keep in mind, my home park in Six Flags is Great Adventure, which probably has one of the worst operations there. Their lines just get so disastrously long, especially even like during the weeks in the summer, their lines get so long so quick, and it seems like so many more times going to Six Flags than like a Cedar Fair where you only see one train on rides. I mean, it happened to us at Over Georgia. I think Batman and Mindbender were both only running one train, the 2 days we were there. Over Texas and Fiesta Texas, I kind of got to give a pass because I was there over Christmas, and it's kind of reduced operations there, so I can't really fault them for that. You're doing some off-season maintenance because you're only closed for 2.5 months out of the year, so I can understand that. Same thing with Magic Mountain. If you come across a few rides that are only running one train, it's really hard to go against that. New England, I don't remember being New England especially didn't let you pick where you wanted to sit on most of the coasters, which is something that I don't like, and that's something we can get into on a different show. But I hate when parks don't let you pick your seat. And I can understand if it's like you can sit anywhere but the front row, or if it's like they're assigning people. I don't even care if they assign people rows if you say, can I sit in the front, or can we wait for the front, or can we wait for the back, and they'll let you do it. But very few times, but mostly at Six Flags parks, it happens where they won't let you pick where you want to sit, and that irks me. And they did it at New England a couple times. Over Georgia, they didn't really do it. Daredevil Dive, they didn't let you pick where you wanted to sit, but I mean, I can understand that. It's a small train, it's a long line. I'm okay with that. It's not one where I really want to pick where I want to sit. I just wanted to get on it. I'm thinking for operations, the two parks to me that I would say Discovery Kingdom, because they had really good operations the first time I went, but when we went back in June, they were really, really slow, and the ride operators were annoying. The Six Flags operators are very vocal, and certain ones can just be a little bit too much. They were like that at Discovery Kingdom. And it kind of ruined it for me because I think it's a nice park. It's got probably some of the best theming there and best scenery, which we'll talk about a little bit. But the operations there, I was expecting them to be as good as they were the last time I was there, and they weren't. So I think that kind of hurt it for me. The two parks that I don't specifically remember them being bad at, because most of them are bad for me. Coming from working at Dorney at a Cedar Fair park, Six Flags St. Louis and Six Flags Great America are the two parks that I specifically don't recall the operations being bad. And maybe it was because we had Flash Pass at both, but I specifically remember at Great America and St. Louis that I never found myself saying, boy, they're taking a long time to dispatch this train. I never really found myself saying that, which I say in a lot of parks, not just Six Flags parks. But I don't ever really recall myself saying they're taking a long time to get this train out.
Well,
it wasn't super fast, but I'm probably going to pick between those two.
I can tell you that Great America, usually is pretty good with putting trains on the track, which I like. I like parks that start off with a full boat of trains.
Yep, definitely.
And usually they're okay with dispatching trains. I know Raging Bull sometimes has some problems. X-Flight has some mechanical problems where people push the wrong button or it stalls for some reason. This year Goliath has killed they are being overly safe on Goliath, probably because of the stuff that's happened. But they are super slow. You have a train hitting the brake run. They're only running two trains to begin with on Goliath, and one's hitting the brake run and then sitting there for a good 45 seconds to a minute, and they're still checking seatbelts on the train in the station. And the lift hill is not super quick. The ride is pretty quick. The lift hill's not. I don't see any reason why you shouldn't be dispatching a second train as soon as that first one hits the brake run. So that's really killed the operations there for me. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to make a very controversial pick here. And I have to say that the park that I've experienced the best operations at is Six Flags America. And that's one.
You know what? Yeah. And and it's funny because every time I've been there, it's because there's almost never any crowds there, at least when I go. And I've heard stories of it being like super duper crowded there and that the operations are terrible. But every time I've been there, there's no lines. And I don't know that it's because the operations are that good. I think it's just because we've gone on light days. But Six Flags America they're not bad. They're probably third on my list anyway. A lot of times they only got one train on pretty much all the rides there, and there's still not lines.
I'll be honest, when I was there, the thing that really set it apart for me, I thought the workers were super nice. Like some of the nicest workers we've experienced at almost any park. I would say they were super nice there. They were also pretty nice. If I had to give a backup pick, my secondary pick would probably be New England. They had trains on the track immediately when we walked in the door. Bizarro was loading people even before the park officially opened, which I think is super awesome for a Six Flags park, especially. It was a rainy morning, so a lot of their rides probably should not have been running. And as soon as that rain stopped, they opened up Goliath and got it running right away. And then, it started raining again, so they had to shut it down. So they knew that it was only going to be open for a short period, and they still opened it anyway, which I give a part credit for that too, trying to get people on it as much as they can. But yeah, my pick will definitely have to go to Six Flags America. We went 2 summers ago, and it was during that super hot summer, and it was about 105 degrees at the park. It was unbearable. It was ridiculous. So obviously there weren't many people there, but I'll tell you what, the workers still had a great attitude. None of them had, like, they're standing out there in the heat more so than anybody else. I had the opportunity to go into air-conditioned buildings if I wanted to get out of the heat. These people are standing up there on a platform checking seatbelts, and there's nowhere to escape that. And they still they still had super great attitudes. They were super nice. I don't have any complaints about that place. And I'll definitely say that that work staff, I would give them my point, definitely.
Well, and Six Flags America is one of those parks that has taken a lot of flack in the last decade, but in the last 5-6 years, they've really turned that place. Now, I wasn't there during the time when people said that place was just an awful place to go.
Mm-hmm.
But the first time I went there was 2011, and I had always kind of waited to go there because I was like, it's been so long since they got a ride, and we finally said, let's just go. And then the next year they got Iron Wolf, so they finally, and we went the next year anyway to get those cheap season passes we talked about. But I've been there twice, and I enjoyed it both times. And we went early in the year. We went late in the year the first time. We went in August because we were driving down and watched the Leviathan announcement the day we went down in 2011. And then we went down early the next year to get our season passes. We went like the last weekend in March because it was Easter weekend, because that was the year that Easter was in late March. And I've enjoyed both of my times there. They've got a solid collection of rides. They have Raging Cajun now, which is a nice family spinning ride, which kind of fills that void that they sort of needed. Wild One, I think, is very underrated. I like the Flyers, so I like Batwing. Joker's Jinx is good. Superman is really good, better than the one up here at Darien Lake. So Six Flags America is one of those parks that we haven't really mentioned tonight, but I think it's one of those parks that is a lot better than people think. So I'm going to let you give your point to them. I think I'm going to give a half a point each. I'm going to split my point and give a half each to St. Louis and Great America, because those were, and again, me being the East Coaster, liking the Midwest parks here. So we talked about that a few episodes ago when we talked about your trip to Knoebels. So I think those were the two parks specifically where I don't recall saying, boy, the operations are bad here. So I'm gonna go with a half a point. So they weren't stellar. They weren't like a Cedar Point or a Disney, but they were pretty decent, especially for a Six Flags park. So I'm gonna go with that. Now you kind of alluded to it here. The next one is customer service. And, I really thought that the hospitality and the friendliness of those Midwest parks, St. Louis, even Fiesta Texas, Great America, I really enjoyed the hospitality and the friendliness there. And I'll tell you what, the times we've been to Six Flags America is probably one of only two. They did it at Six Flags Over Georgia too. Six Flags Over Georgia and Six Flags America, and then Great America and St. Louis are the 4 Six Flags parks where I specifically remember more than one employee walking by us and saying, "Hi guys, how's your day going?" And that's something that you see at Disney, you see at the Busch Gardens parks. You don't get a whole lot of that at Cedar Fair and Six Flags. And those are the parks that I distinctly remember that being the case. And Six Flags America, they were awfully friendly down there.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. Maybe they were just laid back the times I've been there because they weren't that busy. The Fiesta Texas people were very friendly. When I went there, I had a nice discussion with one of the ride operators about, why they were shutting down the mine train for light rain, and whatnot, kind of speaking their language, being a former ride op myself. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Because I'm kind of having to decide here between a couple for this one.
I'll be honest. My customer service point's going to go to Great America, just because I've dealt with a lot of people in a lot of different levels. And at Great America, they have been super nice at every single level I've ever dealt with. That, I was even thinking to myself the last time I was there a few weeks ago, just walking through the park, people, like you said, people saying, how's your day? How's it going? Do you need any help?
Definitely.
Just those little interactions help a lot. The ride hosts are always smiling, always very happy usually. The PR department has been awesome. When me and Kane were up there for Goliath Media Day, like super accommodating, even to like small web, to the smallest website, to the largest website, to, the regular TV news. Like they treated everyone great. It was a great experience from top to bottom. Even last year, I got the opportunity to walk through all of the haunts and take pictures of them with the famous David, who you might have seen from the Goliath videos. We spent a lot of time together, a few hours, not a lot of time. We spent a few hours together walking through the haunts, and we had a great conversation. So I have to give my point to Great America just because I think they do an awesome job with customer service. And it's the quintessential customer service. It's not just ride ops being nice or being efficient. It's them actually taking an interest in your day and trying to find ways to make your day better. And you know what? I'm going to call them out right here. That's what really pissed me off when Rob Alvey decided this summer that he was going to go on Facebook and rip that park because he didn't get his way. And I think it's absolutely disgusting that he did that just because he didn't get his way, because that is a park that goes out of their way to try to treat people nice and to give people a good experience and have a good day at the park. And I'm not one to say that about every park. I'm not one to say that. So I'm not just bullshitting these people here. So for him to do that, I think was completely unprofessional on his part. And I don't care. You want to send me hate mail, have your little minions send me hate mail. That's fine. But that was completely unprofessional to do that, to have a paid advertisement on Facebook complaining because he didn't follow the rules and he expected special treatment. That's bullshit.
And good for Great America for putting their foot down.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm glad that we're going to give them, you're going to give them your point for that, because I would definitely, that's definitely one of the parks that I'm debating between. I'm going to give my point to one park, and I'm going to ask your opinion about possibly giving a half a point to another park that we can both agree on. St. Louis would probably come in fourth for me. There weren't any specific examples that I really remember, but I do remember them being pretty friendly. I'm going to give this might surprise people, I'm going to give mine to Six Flags Over Georgia. And I think when we were down there, I think all three of us noticed that there were several occasions where there were employees who came up to us as we were walking by them and asked us how our day was going, if they could help us. One of the security officers before the park opened the one day we were there was making a nice conversation with us while we were waiting by the Georgia Cyclone. There was another one. Right before the rides closed for rain, the second day we were there, right before the park closed for the day on the second day, the folks at the Dahlonega Mine Train were having so much fun at the end of the day and were hilarious. And they were having so much fun working there. And I know it's not the most popular ride at the park, but there were a few examples where people, and the people who were at Superman let us ride 3 or 4 times in a row at the beginning of the day. And they were like, you guys are going on again, right? Stuff that kind of gets you amped up for the rest of the day. And I saw that on several occasions at that park. So I'm going to give Six Flags Over Georgia a point. For me, I know that's something that may surprise you a little bit.
Now, actually, I find it very interesting because, and I have no idea if this means anything. It could have no connection whatsoever. But you went there this year, correct?
Correct.
It just so happens that this year, the PR guy from the head of PR from Great America was actually sent down to Over Georgia. And
really?
Yes. And I wonder if he was sent down there to kind of clean some stuff up. And the kind of stuff you're talking about.
Great.
is the kind of stuff that happens up at Great America. And I'm completely
I saw it there too.
Yeah, I'm completely speculating here, and I don't know how much power the PR people actually have with day-to-day operations like you're talking about. But I'll tell you what, he was sent down there, and he was awesome up here. His name was Brandon Bruce.
Yeah.
And he was awesome up here, and hopefully he's cleaning stuff up down there because it's such a great park, and I wanted to like it so much. It's actually my second favorite Six Flags park, but the operations was what sent me over the edge at that place. I was so incensed. So what was your other place that you were going to mention?
So I think we talked about it before at the operations, but would you be willing to give Six Flags America a half a point? Because I've had two very good trips there, and I plan on getting down there this year, to get on Raging Cajun, and just because I have enjoyed both of my visits there. That's a park that I look forward to going to. I would be willing to give them a half a point as kind of like a consolation.
I think so. I think that would be in order.
Okay. All right. So we're getting close to the end of our time here this evening, which, by the way, if you're watching the show now, I mentioned it on last week's show, but if you're watching this right now, you got a little bit of flurries today. So did we. If you're watching this now, by the time this goes live, I'll be down at IAPA in sunny Orlando riding the roller coasters. And hopefully by this time next week while we're recording, by the time you guys watch this, I will have ridden White Lightning as my 400th coaster. Yeah. So that'll be cool. I can't wait to talk about that.
We're happy for you.
Yeah, I know you are. Another T-shirt coming. Anyway,
man.
That's why it's uncut, right?
It's uncut.
Had to do it. Oh boy, I could see out your ears through your nose when you did that. Yeah. All right, so we got two categories left. One of which is kind of a weird topic because it's like the special events, which they all do Fright Fest, and then a few have Christmas events. But the last real one here is going to be the environment and the scenery and theming. And there's two or three that specifically come to my mind right away, and I'm thinking that at least one of them is the same as yours. So why don't you go ahead first?
Mine goes right away that the one that stands out above and beyond is Fiesta Texas. I don't think there is a better park that has a better environment than Fiesta Texas, with the canyon, with the waterfall coming off the canyon, and even the themed areas. The Rockville area is pretty cool. Yep. Just the scenery. Just Iron Rattler being built onto the side, Krypton Coaster being built onto the side and the top of the canyon. I'll tell you what, there is nothing that beats that. And some people might point at Magic Mountain and say Magic Mountain's got, but California's just not pretty to me. I'm sorry. I don't get it. I don't get California.
So I will agree. Fiesta Texas is definitely in my top two for theming, and maybe because you went to them, I'll go to my other one, and that is going to be Six Flags Discovery Kingdom.
Oh.
Discovery Kingdom has, because it's the theme park combined with the marine life park, they have like a walk-through butterfly garden, which I know is strange to be talking about on a show like this, but that's something that you don't see a lot of places. They had something like that at Gilroy Gardens too. And you see nice plants, you see statues with like mosaic tiles of like elephants and giraffes, and the theming, the scenery is well kept up. It reminds me of a SeaWorld park. It really is the Six Flags version of a SeaWorld or a Busch Gardens. Maybe not quite on that scale, but it's right there. So I'm going to give my point to Six Flags Discovery Kingdom there. And the other park that I considered here was Six Flags over Texas, and the reason being because I think that has more of one conducive theme rather than several themed areas. Discovery Kingdom is the same way. It has more of one conducive theme. Discovery Kingdom actually has three separate areas. They have land, sea, and air, I believe. So they have a couple different themed areas, but they're all centralized about the same thing, and they're focused on marine life and animals, which is neat to see combined with a Six Flags park. At SeaWorld, it's really more about that and less about the thrill rides, whereas at Discovery Kingdom, it's really a good mix of the two. And Discovery Kingdom is one of the more attractive parks to me in the chain. I really think that Discovery Kingdom would probably be one of my top 3 Six Flags parks if the operations didn't sour my visit last time. Kind of sounds like what happened with you at Six Flags Over Georgia. Really, the operations seem to sour you on the whole thing. The coaster collection isn't quite there yet. They probably need 1 or 2 more signature coasters to really get there. The problem is they have that 150-foot height restriction, so they're not going to get a hyper coaster, at least not one up to 200 feet. They might get a smaller one like a Goliath at La Ronde. But it really feels like they're just missing kind of maybe 1 or 2 more signature rides. I don't think Superman Ultimate Flight was quite it yet.
You know what they need? They need an Intamin Blitz coaster is what they need. That would be very good for that park. I think something like that would be really cool for that park. And you could do it to like a cheetah theme. Oh yeah.
You could do something similar to like a cheetah hunt. Do something like that. It could be right along the same lines, maybe a bit more compact because they don't have quite as much space. But I think something like that could really, really do that park some good. So
even if you brought America a Megalite or something, that like just do a straight up clone of a Megalite.
That would be good. I think something like that would really be good. And we hear that those Megalites are really, really popular over there. The people who've ridden them really, really like them. So who knows? Maybe
do it.
Hopefully, I'm really hoping there's something down the pipeline for Discovery Kingdom because I think they're really just a good coaster or 2 away from really being one of the standout parks in the chain. So, real quick, do you want to touch on the events here? I've been to the Christmas events at Fiesta Texas and Over Texas. I think both of those are good. I think Over Georgia does it too, and I know Magic Mountain does it, and I think Discovery Kingdom might be doing it too. But I really thought the light show at Six Flags Over Texas was really good. I really want to give them a half a point. Even if it's between the theming and the environment and the special events, I really want to give Over Texas a half a point for that at least. So I think maybe I'll do that since we don't really have much to judge on. I haven't been to the haunts. Like I said last week, I don't get to go to the haunts, so I haven't been at Six Flags haunts before. I hear they're pretty good. I don't know if you have been.
The only haunt I've been to is Great America's Haunt, and the haunted houses themselves are less than spectacular. The overall event though is pretty cool. They usually have some pretty good shows. I probably have to give, if I was going to give any points, I'd probably give a half a point to Great America, simply based on Love at First Fright, which is probably one of the best stage shows ever produced. At any theme park. Well, maybe not any theme park, because that's a hefty statement. When I think about it. But definitely the best stage show probably produced in Six Flags. Maybe the best stage show produced in Six Flags or Cedar Fair. Once you start getting into like the Busch Gardens and the Universals and the Disneys, then it might still rank in there. It's pretty funny. It's been going for about 20 years now, and they update it every year to add in pop culture references, and it's usually the highlight of the Fright Fest event. So I'd probably give it a half a point for that. But all the rest of the Fright Fest seem pretty standard, to be honest with you.
Okay, so you'll give a half a point to them?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just I was listening to what you were saying there. I'm just kind of tallying up what we've come up with here. Okay. So this is actually pretty interesting. I think it's probably about what I would rank them all together. Let me just make sure I tallied everything up here, right? I think I did. So do you want me to list off what we've kind of come up with here and see if maybe we agree with it, or maybe we kind of think maybe we're missing something here? So I'll read you off the ones that have the least amount of points, and that is Great Escape, La Ronde, and Six Flags Mexico. obviously. And it's tough again because you and I haven't been to La Ronde or Six Flags Mexico. I've been to Great Escape. I was only there for a few hours. I was actually there for a haunt event, but I was there during the day. We weren't there all night because it was their last weekend and they closed early. It's so damn cold up there, you know, it's late in the year. Excuse me. So just getting over a cold, so excuse me. So we don't have anything for those guys. Every other park has at least half a point. So the ones that have half a point are Six Flags New England. I gave them a half point for food, and Great Adventure, we collaboratively gave them half a point for the coasters. So New England and Great Adventure, and I would say that's probably accurate. I think the customer service is very subpar at Great Adventure. And again, maybe it's that East Coast, New York, Philadelphia type of attitude that we've talked about before. With 1 point, full Magic Mountain and Discovery Kingdom. And we gave Magic Mountain a point right at the top for roller coasters, which I think is fair. But aside from the roller coasters, they don't have a lot of flat rides. They don't have great food. The operations are The customer service is maybe a little and the theming, in spots it's good, but others it's not. So I really think that really the leg that they're standing on is the roller coasters, I think. Yeah. Now we get into a couple of parks that have a point and a half each, and that is Six Flags St. Louis, which, okay, Six Flags Over Texas, the original Six Flags, so yeah, and Six Flags America. And I think that's one that, you know, people might get on our shit that we've put Six Flags America that high. I mean, we've put it in a tie for fourth of all the Six Flags parks. We've put Six Flags America in a three-way tie for fourth, with parks like Over Texas and St. Louis and above Great Adventure and Magic Mountain. I'm pretty sure that nobody would have guessed that. But when you think about it, the coaster collection isn't bad. The flat ride selection is a little lacking. The food isn't great there. But the operations and the friendliness and the customer service there, I think you really got to look at that. I think that's something. I mean, we haven't talked about water parks, but their water park is the moneymaker there. Yeah. So they have a pretty good water park from what I hear. I'm not a water park guy, so I don't know. But that's that. So then we have a three-way tie for first, and they each have 2 points. And I think if we would have started this show an hour and 10 minutes ago and would have said, okay, name your favorite Six Flags park, go. I think between the two of us, we probably would have named, I think we might have put all three of these as our top three name. And that is Six Flags Great America, Six Flags Fiesta Texas, and Six Flags Over Georgia. And I think those might be my favorite three. I think if you would ask me to name my favorite three, I might have gone with like St. Louis, maybe Magic Mountain just for the quantity of coasters. But all things considered, I think those are the three I probably would have come up with.
I'll be honest, currently on my refrigerator, I have all my parks ranked. My number one park is Fiesta. My number two park is Over Georgia. 3 is actually New England. And 4 is actually Great America. So I'm right there with you. There. Yeah.
I think for me, Six Flags New England, it's just the coaster collection isn't there. They have one of the best steel coasters in the world in Bizarro there, and Wicked Cyclone looks like it's going to be amazing. Mm-hmm. But after that, you've got a pretty good floorless, and then after that, you've got an old wooden coaster that is good, but it's probably not taken care of like it should be. That's why Cyclone's not around. They've got a horrible Mind Eraser. They've got a Wild Mouse. They've got 2 kiddie coasters. They've got a spinning coaster. I mean, they really... They got
Goliath. Don't forget Goliath.
They've got 2 boomerangs. Holy crap. Next to each other, for God's sake. So, I mean, most of the Six Flags parks have 2 or 3 good coasters and then have a good supporting cast. New England has 2 or 3 good coasters and then it really drops off.
Yeah, no.
And I think, and hopefully they can fix that in the coming years. They do have a decent flat ride collection, over Georgia, Great America, Fiesta Texas, I honestly think those are probably the 3 I would have came up with maybe St. Louis thrown in there.
Now,
could you pick between those 3?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I know we don't have a lot of time here, but do we want to pick one of those?
Here, well, and let's go back to, if we're gonna try and pick between those, I think at the end of the day, you and I primarily go to the parks for the thrill rides and the roller coasters. And I think if that's what you and I are going for, at the end of the day, that has to be the deciding factor. Because I know...
No.
See, Great America, Viper is a great wooden roller coaster. American Eagle is a good wooden roller coaster. Raging Bull, B&M Hyper, not the best one out there. Probably on the lower end of the B&M Hypers, but still a nice ride. X-Flight is a great ride. They have a Superman. They have probably one of the best Batmans. I rode it when it was backwards. And you've ridden Goliath. I haven't. So that's something else that I have to kind of keep in mind, too, in terms of the coaster collection. They probably have a very complete coaster collection. Over Georgia does, too. Fiesta Texas, I think, in terms of the coaster collection, is a little bit behind because they don't have the good wooden roller coaster like the other 2 do. And Iron Rattler is fantastic. And I enjoy Poltergeist, I enjoy Goliath, and the Mine Train is nice. But in terms of the roller coasters, when you do thrill rides all together, they've got a good, probably the best flat collection out of any of those. So it's tough because what they and they got Superman. I haven't been on Superman because it's closed during the Christmas event. But what they lack in coasters, I think they kind of make up for in the theming in the flat ride department. So
I'm down in my head. I'm down to Over Georgia and Fiesta. I think
I would agree. I would think maybe I'll strike Great America, and I really don't want to. But I think if you gave me the option between the Great America and the other 2, I think if you gave me the option of all 3, I think Great America might be the first one I knock out.
And I'm going to go with you that I am a coaster guy, that I hardly, when I go to a park, that's the number one thing I do is coasters. And if that's the case, if that's what I'm going to vote on, yes, I love Iron Rattler. Iron Rattler is currently my number 4 ranked coaster. But Goliath is in my top 10. And I'm going to have to go with the collection of Over Georgia. And I'll tell you what. The environment and atmosphere of Over Georgia, we didn't mention this before, but I think that's a very beautiful park too.
It definitely is. For a while, that was up there with the Busch parks for best landscaping, and I think it really is it's very hilly, but it's very shady too in a lot of areas. The asphalt when you're not in the shade is tough, and it's very hilly. But I think, I think having the Monster Mansion Dark Ride is another thing for me that really makes it stick out, because it's unique. Even though the flat ride collection isn't very extensive there, I thought, and Acrophobia, the drop tower, I thought was really neat. And boy, I love the Georgia Cyclone. I know you don't, but I really enjoyed Georgia Cyclone. Scorcher was good. Goliath is great. Mindbender was great. I think the fact that when you look at the coasters, they don't really have a bad one there. The Southern hospitality feel that we got there, I would probably say number 1 is Six Flags Over Georgia, with 1A being Six Flags Fiesta Texas. Yeah. I think here's what I'll say, and maybe we'll wrap it up with this. I'm going to say Six Flags Over Georgia is probably number 1 after we've done our little discussion here tonight. But I think if we were to stick a Great Coasters wooden coaster in the Six Flags Fiesta Texas, that might sway me.
You mean like a black, like Batman type coaster that I was calling for this whole freaking off season? Give me a black wooden Batman coaster, and that park would be something special.
And it's tough for me because I haven't ridden Superman. That really takes away from I think if I would have ridden Superman, maybe I even come down on the other side of this. But Iron Rattler's fantastic. They're getting this, at least it's a unique Batman the Ride. It's funny that they have a Batman clone and it's not called Batman the Ride. Maybe they could don't you think they could just switch the names and call the new one Goliath now?
Why not?
Just to kind of keep some uniformity between the parks. But I think if Fiesta Texas was to bring back a wooden coaster and do it right, and maybe it's Great Coasters, maybe it's Gravity Group, or maybe it's Rocky Mountain, who knows, and maybe they do something with like the quarry wall like they did with the old Rattler, and they did it right and it was successful. I really think that would probably sway my vote. So I'm going to go number 1, Six Flags Over Georgia, but I'm going to say 1A is Six Flags Fiesta Texas. And then I'm okay putting Great America as like number 3 behind those two. But Six Flags Over Georgia and Six Flags Fiesta Texas, definitely the top 2 with a slight edge to Six Flags Over Georgia.
I would completely agree. I can't really add anything to that you haven't already said for all those reasons. So I think that's a pretty solid list. And I to be honest, I think our list is pretty solid overall too. I
think so.
People are gonna come at us for the Great Adventure and Magic Mountain stuff, but I'll tell you what, those 2 parks were completely unimpressive to me. You can keep your 19 roller coasters at Magic Mountain, and I know there's been commenters saying that how they match up with Cedar Point. You're out of your minds. They don't match up with Cedar Point at all. They barely match up with other Six Flags parks. They just have a lot, and sometimes quantity is not better than quality, and I think that's the problem over there.
That is evident with the 2 parks that we picked. Fiesta Texas has 9 roller coasters? They have half the roller coasters that Six Flags Magic Mountain does, yet I think that's the better park. And Six Flags Over Georgia only has 11. They don't have that many, but they have 11 really good ones, and pretty much they're all unique. Even the Superman is unique because of the terrain. Even though it's a clone ride, it's a different feel from the others. So, I like where we came down on pretty much all these. Great Adventure and Magic Mountain, great roller coasters, and a great collection of coasters. But when we're talking about the best park overall, I think Fiesta Texas and Over Georgia, I think those are the 2. I think those are the 2 that I would have come up with an hour and 20 minutes ago when we started.
I think we have hit our longest episode here, so maybe it's time.
But it was good. I think we had some good discussion, and I think that we definitely are going to have people agree with us on some fronts and disagree with us on some fronts. I know my Aunt Sue was in here. She really likes Six Flags Over Texas with the ride collection. She said Six Flags New England with the food, and she remembers Six Flags Fiesta Texas really being good on the operations and customer service part. So that is good. Steel Rock here, he was good enough to actually, this is how he ranks the parks in Six Flags. You want me to read his actual list here before we wrap up, the way he ranked them? He ranked number 1 Great America. Okay. He said not as many coasters as others, but the lines run much better, which we said in operations, pretty good. And he thinks the best wooden coaster is Six Flags and Viper, which I would probably put Georgia Cyclone a little above that, but after that I'd say yeah. Next he has Great Adventure. But he does say that the lines run really slow. Then he has Magic Mountain. But he says you can't do the park without a flash pass unless you're spending a couple days there. So again, then he goes over Georgia, over Texas, then Fiesta Texas, and he mentions Pandemonium. Pandemonium, for whatever reason, runs awesome at Fiesta Texas. We got spinning like crazy each time we did that. And then he finishes up with St. Louis, Great Escape, La Ronde, New England, and then Six Flags America at the end, which is interesting. He hasn't been to Discovery Kingdom or Mexico, but it's interesting that a lot of people seem to be putting Six Flags, or at least Six Flags America at the bottom there.
He also says that he's mainly a coaster guy and general customer service. Right. So with that in mind, I think Six Flags America's coaster collection is pretty unique and interesting with Batwing and Superman and Joker's Jinx and even Wild One.
I think Wild One is exceptionally underrated.
Yeah.
And Apocalypse isn't bad.
It's
good
bad.
For that park, I think.
It was bad as Iron Wolf, and it's bad as Apocalypse.
It's not horrible. Let's see. Did anyone else? Let's see. I want to make sure I didn't leave anyone out here in the consortium. I don't think we had a whole lot.
No.
Jeremy said that he thought Six Flags Great America is pretty good. He said excellent customer service and good ride choices. That's what Jeremy said there. So for the people we kind of put that on late notice because you and I were debating what topic we wanted to go with tonight. Mm-hmm. So thanks to the people who responded. We're going to try and get that up a little sooner for the next show. I think shortly. I don't know. I really like doing this. I think we're gonna have to do this for Cedar Fair before too long too. I think this is good. And then maybe we can go into like small town parks.
Oh yeah.
And just pick a bunch of small parks because you know that we're gonna have a great debate when we get into Knoebels and Kennywood and Holiday World and all these small parks. We are gonna have so much fun with that.
Oh well, you're gonna have so much fun. I am gonna sit there and look at the screen a lot. So.
Hey, come on. We'll talk about Holiday World. Are you kidding
me? Okay.
We'll talk about that.
Well, on that, I think it's time to wrap up this show. I know we went a little bit longer, but as we said, I think we had a really great discussion this evening.
I think so. We had some fun tonight.
As always, from Chicago, Illinois, I am Andrew Robarchak.
And from Rochester, New York, or hopefully when you're watching this, Orlando, Florida, I'm Danny Miller.
And as always, right on, Ride Warriors.
See you next time.